Hey, and welcome back to Holistic Developer. I hope you're having an amazing time. Today, I want to invite you over to see what does it look to work from home as a software developer. And the reason I'm working from home today is because it's snowing in Washington State. It's a lot of snow and the road is really dangerous. It's really icy. And that's the reason why a lot of people actually send emails first thing in the morning today saying they are working from home. So it's really a desert island in the office today. So, what does a day look like of a software developer who works from home? And honestly, it's not much different from a regular day working from the office. It depends what you have to do that day. And honestly, every single day is different. You might have the same meetings at the same time, but they are always different because you're talking about different tasks. So what do I actually do? I start my day with going over the things that I want to accomplish that day. So I'll have 3 top tasks that I want to do that day. And if I have time, I believe I have time to work on a couple more, I'll add those as well. So then I think about where do I add them? How do I plan them? How do I block them in my calendar for that day so the day is most effective, the most productive? And I'm doing the block scheduling method. I'm adding blocks to focus on certain things that the way I'm the most effective. I don't have to multitask or task switch and trying to remember where I left off. So I'm using Pomodoros and I schedule, let's say, I think I will need 4 Pomodoros for that or something like that. So I make sure that I'm adding everything to my list. I also add my working out there, checking emails. I'm checking emails twice a day, one time in the morning, one in the evening. I'm actually also adding code reviews there. I'm making sure that I'm planning for that and making sure that whatever I didn't accomplish yesterday and I need to do it today, I'm adding it here. That way nothing is left behind and I don't forget about anything. Okay, so here I started to work on my top task for the day, which was going over the requirements that one of our top customers sent. And the requirements were like what they are looking for. And it's one of the main projects for them this year. And it was a quite lengthy document. And I was reading and rereading some sentences, trying to understand, trying to see what they are actually looking for, and trying to kind of understand and determine what are the gaps, what do we already doing, what we are not doing, what will have to change, what enhancements, what software development will have to happen. And after kind of have wrapped my head around a little bit what they're looking for, I was dialing into their server. The reason is that I wanted to see what is their configuration right now, because some of what they were asking, our software already supports that functionality. So I just wanted to see if they are enabled and configured to use that, and also to run a few scenarios of what they had, because they had a few examples of what they're looking for. So as you can see, I dialed into their server, I launched our application, and I started to look over the settings configurations that they have. And what they are looking for, it's interesting enough, really complex. It might take a while to configure and actually enhance the software to do that. So I get to the point where I can look at the configurations, run a few examples, and look at what's going on. But from looking at it right away, I can tell that this is a large task. It's definitely not one day, not a week, and not a month. It's a large task, and obviously it will run throughout a few probably months. I don't know for sure. It's too early to tell, but it obviously will need to have meetings with the customers, go over the requirements to make sure that we understand everything, and then provide a documentation, a design spec, let's say a compliance study, or we also call it a DFS, which is detailed functional specs, and where we will determine what needs to be done, how much of development effort will it be, how much software engineering will be, how many developers will work, and so on. And then we will deliver that to the customer with an estimate of how much work and how much money that might cost. So that was my main task for the day, my main goal for the day. And I'm a subject matter expert in this area, so I'm not the one who will be doing the work. Maybe, who knows, but at this time, I am just looking into this because I'll be mentoring the two developers who will be working on this task. So yeah, as I said, throughout the day, I'm coming back to my planner to see what progress I'm making. As I mentioned, I'm using Pomodoros for all of this, and I scheduled where my target is 2, 4, something like that. And then I come back and see how much time I actually spent on specific tasks. It got time to me going to have a break and run. This is how I look after I run. Sorry for a messy look. Today I was supposed to go to the office and it's a Pilates day, but because it's a snow day, Pilates was canceled. The majority of people working from home because of the snow. Schools are canceled, colleges are canceled, and all that stuff. It's really slippery on the road. My husband today dropped our daughter, and it's like 2 minutes away, the daycare where we drop her. And on the way back, it was down the hill and it was really slippery. And my car has the mode of snow mode. And anyways, it was really slippery. So it's a snow day. Time to get back to work, and in this case it's one exception when I will multitask. I'll eat and work at the same time, so this is the time that actually spent coding. And obviously coding, you have to do a little bit of research and test and run and see how it works. So that's what I was doing here. I was coding. I coded for a little bit and ran the application to make sure that everything is compiled correctly and it's all well, so I can send it to be code reviewed and then to check it in, source control it, and publish it. And in this case, I was actually making changes to our framework. That's the very first time I was making changes to our framework. And here I was looking for help for my husband. We both work at the same company. He's a different department, I'm a different department. And I needed his expertise on something, so he came over and helped me figure out something. And yeah, that's one of the benefits of working at the same company. It's time for our prioritization meeting where we go over our backlog and see what added there, what is the status of it, and how critical it is. And we go over everything and prioritize it. And right now I'm in a help desk, which I will probably make a separate video about it and talk about what does it really mean. But in this, you can hear that I'm actually talking with our account manager and explaining something. So if we're going to do something, that means that all the screens will have to be updated as well, so have the same functionality. And it's not a hard change to do, it's just a lot of tweaking that needs to be done. So it's doable to change it to be a pop-up. It's just something that we do really need to do on all the screens. Whatever it will be, like whatever we decide to make it, if we decide to make it a toast, we need to make sure that everywhere where this error is being shown, and it's not only shown on screens, it's also shown on web services, can be returned as web services as well, so we'll have to probably have a differentiator or something like that. But whatever it is, either a toaster or just a dialog that is shown displayed in the middle of the screen, if something is done, we need to make sure that we do for all the screens where the error may be seen. And that's what it's looking like when you talk about something and explaining. So you make sure that everybody's understanding what is needed when something is marked as bug, or if there is a question, you might answer this. And at the same time, you go over different items and kind of share the information, because somebody might be an expert in one area, somebody is new, and somebody experienced or worked in that area, somebody haven't maybe even touched that. And yeah, it's basically a collaboration and making sure that we all help each other, and we make sure that the items are scheduled based on their criticality and emergency level. I did code reviews, and while I did the code reviews, I ran across a few things that didn't solve the actual business problem. If you looked grammatically or syntactically, the code was written correctly, everything was fine, but it was not actually solving problems. So I made sure that I scheduled time for me to talk with the developer and explain to him what's actually need to happen. I explained the business industry side or the main information that is regarding that. It happened that I am the subject matter expert in that area. So I explained what needed to be done, and he asked questions, and I clarified any doubts or any question that he may have, and I told him that he can come back to me with any questions or clarifications, and for him to actually definitely send me a second code review, so I'll verify what are the new proposed changes. So that's I did a little bit of mentoring, like for half an hour, and then I moved on to the next task on my list. Here, as always, I was listening to my favorite radio station, which is Kiss FM Romania, listening to the music, and I think I was actually verifying emails and looking over any emails that I won't be able to address right away. So I will add them as a to-do list, and later that day I will schedule them for the next day, or next day I will go over them and prioritize them and add them into the list where they need to be. So that's basically what it looks like to work from home. It's not anything out of ordinary. Every day it's unique by itself. Something it might be similar. As I mentioned, the meetings are at the same time and stuff like that, but everything it's always unique because you're not working on the same thing over and over again. Being a software engineer, you basically always find something new to work on. There might be bugs, questions, enhancements, going over documentation, making sure that everything is well written up. If you solve the bug or enhance something, going over different requirements, writing design specs, and so on. So that's kind of how my day was. And I don't think it would have been much different from if I was working from the office. It's exactly the same. I don't have a different routine, with the exception that I might take a break and actually go and make a cup of matcha or a cup of tea or something like that, which I don't really do in the office. I'll just go and get a cup of water. I'm curious to hear and read your thoughts about this experience that you see how my day is. I wonder if it's different for you. Do you have a different routine when you're working from home? Feel free to leave the comments below. And to come to a conclusion, at the end of the day, actually, I'll go back to my planner and look at what was scheduled, how many Pomodoros I actually planned for that task, and how many actually used to complete that. Sometimes they are more, sometimes are less, and I basically use that to determine how well I am doing to prioritize things or estimate how much time it will be. And the more I do it, the better I get at it. And then I look at how the day went, what I accomplished, what else needs to be done, so it will be moved to the next day. So I'll answer the questions: one, what went well, what didn't go so well, and what can be improved. And for that day, what went well for me, it was that I successfully finished with my main priority for the day, looking over the requirements that the customer sent. I've determined the gaps, so that's complete, that's successful, so I can move on to the next phase for the project. What didn't go so well, it was that I spent little time coding, a little bit of time coding. If you look at how many hours I spent that day working, I spent only about 2 hours writing code, and I prefer to do more than that. And that's just a day. It is not a regular like that. Some days I code more, some days it might be less, so every day is different. And obviously the last thing that is in my retrospective is to look at what can I improve. In this case, it's probably prioritize more coding tasks in my day, and try to have less admin or research during the day. And I also give a score for the day, how productive it was. And for that day, for my day today, it was 8. So it was pretty good. So yeah, that is how my day looks like when I'm working from home. I'm curious to hear your thoughts about what you saw, what you liked, what you disliked. And yeah, I wish you happy engineering and talk to you in the next video.